I'm 26 male, married to my wife, 26, and we're expecting our first baby. I'm estranged from my paternal side of the family after my father had an affair while my mother was dying, and their willingness to try and defend his actions. While Mom was sick, he left me to care for her while messing around with someone else. He even brought said other women to my mom's funeral. His family also tried to get my mom to forgive before it's too late, while she was still alive. It was a nightmare. I was 15 and it was a lot. Mom needed to be cared for, and I was the only one who could when my aunt had to work. After my mom died, I moved in with my aunt. My father married the other woman and invited me to the wedding, but I didn't go or even acknowledge the invite. I had nothing to do with any of them. I heard he died last year, and it was no concern to me. I also found out he had 2 kids. His other woman and second wife died 4 months ago. My paternal grandparents took the kids in, but they didn't feel like they could raise 2 preschoolers or whatever age they are. They mentioned me to a social worker who approached me and asked if my wife and I would be willing to raise these kids. We said no. The social worker noted it and said they wouldn't approach me again. My grandparents have not given up and contacted me and my wife both over this. They tried to use guilt trips and sob stories about foster care being horrific for kids, and one is a little girl, so it's even worse. None of this changed anything for me, and then they tried getting my aunt to talk to me. They even showed up at our house with the kids and appealed to her as a former foster kid. She and my mom both were. She told them to get the heck out. I ended up talking to them over the phone instead of ignoring their messages. We talked. They told me they went to my aunt's house. They had spoken to the social worker again, and now the kids are in care. They asked me how I could be okay with my siblings being in care. I said, I don't care that their grandkids are in foster care. They're nothing to me, and I'll not pretend to care about saving them. I said they need to accept that the kids are now in care, and a social worker will work on finding them a good family, but they need to accept that I will not be that. They called me a monster and said I should be ashamed of myself, and that they hoped the birth of my child would bring me nothing but guilt. Am I the idiot? The reason I might be the idiot is that the kids are innocent of everything, and I'm a biological relative who could have taken them in if I wanted to. My wife would have been supportive if I had wanted to, but I didn't, and I was very harsh with my grandparents, who were elderly. Not the idiot. Actions have consequences, and your father's actions sadly impacted the lives of all 3 of his children profoundly. You have no obligation, morally or legally, to raise someone else's children. If they're so worried about it, they can raise them and pay for extra help. I'm so sorry for the loss of your mom. I know that never truly goes away. Your grandparents need to contact all of the extended family on both their sides and your stepmother's side and try to find a family member willing to take on the children. From what my aunt was told, nobody else wanted them. My father's siblings all made excuses. His wife's family had nothing to do with her for many years before she died, and they didn't want anything to do with the kids she left behind. My grandparents were the only ones willing, so they took them temporarily. This is actually the kind of situation that appeals to foster to adopt parents. 2 kids under 6-ish who haven't been abused or neglected. Parents are dead, and extended family isn't able to take the kids, so reunification isn't on the table. Frankly, they really could be adopted in 6 months or so, depending on your state's timeline. I have a feeling your grandparents are just as unwilling to take in the kids as the rest of the family, and only took them in temporarily because they were convinced they could convince someone else to take them in. They don't care about those kids either. OP, your grandparents supported your cheating father, who abandoned your dying mom and his 15-year-old child to care for her. They're now choosing to put their grandkids into foster care. These are choices they made out of their own free will. You're not obligated to support their choices. This is messy. I, 40 male, have been married to my wife, Cindy, off and on. We had a child together who's now nearly adult. We had a rocky part in our marriage and split for a few years, where I met a woman, Stacy. We were together for a while, having twins together, tweens. Stacy and I split up because she was unfaithful. 2 years later, I reconciled with Cindy, and we have my twins every weekend due to our work schedules. This past weekend, my oldest daughter went into early labor. It was also my weekend with my twins. I had told Stacy on the way to the hospital that I wouldn't be able to have them this weekend due to this. I had to put my phone on silent away due to a lot going on. When I returned to my phone, I had a bunch of texts from Stacy saying how I needed to go home and be with my twins, and how Cindy could handle this situation. I told her absolutely not, that I wasn't missing the birth of my grandchild. She then responded angrily, saying how I was picking my oldest daughter over my youngest, and how wrong that was since they could only see me on the weekends anyway. I tried texting and calling multiple times throughout the weekend, getting no responses. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. This was your responsibility to figure out. It was your weekend. Making your ex rearrange her schedule because you decided not to get the kids is unacceptable. Your weekend means that you need to arrange childcare if needed. Do better. Stacy might have made whatever plans for the weekend. Oh no, OP's oldest child had early labor though. That is not equal. If Stacy can't understand how important the birth of your first grandchild is, did Stacy not even care for your oldest daughter? She had an early labor. Not the idiot. Stacy should be more understanding. Easy for all these people to say you're an idiot when you were the one who had to go through the stress of worrying that your eldest daughter can have a healthy delivery. Ignore these people, OP. Labor is an emergency, especially premature, especially under 18, especially if you're in the U.S. Your child is undergoing a painful, scary, life-threatening procedure, something that absolutely takes priority over a regular weekend with your younger children. Make it up to your twins later by taking them somewhere extra fun next weekend. As for their mom, having your ex have an emergency and being unable to take the kids during their time is an expected part of co-parenting. I'm not sure what plan she could have had, but frankly, emergencies take precedence. My wife visited her sister 2 weeks ago and left me responsible for her plants. She has a bunch of potted plants, succulents, and cacti on the balcony and in the backyard. She's very attached to them and calls them her babies. I'm not a big fan of plants, but I promised her that I would water them every day. However, I got distracted with work and other things and completely forgot about the plants. When she returned yesterday, she was horrified that some were wilted, dried out, or dead. She got furious and accused me of being irresponsible, careless, and insensitive. She said I don't respect her hobby and that I don't care about her feelings. She said the plants were important to her and I should have been more attentive. I apologized and explained that it was an honest mistake, but she didn't want to listen. She's been giving me the silent treatment since then and refuses to speak to me. She said she'll continue to do so until I make things right. I think she's overreacting and being dramatic. The plants are cheap and easily replaceable. She can buy others like them or even better ones at the gardening store. I don't understand why she's so upset over something so trivial. I know I messed up by forgetting to water the plants, but I didn't do it intentionally. They're just plants, not people. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She asks you to do one favor while she's away, and it slips your mind? Not just once or twice, but for a whole 2 weeks? It's not about the plants, although those matter and are not simply replaceable. It's about how your wife is so utterly unimportant to you that you can't spare a single cell of your brain to do something small to help her. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is not the first time you've demonstrated this. I'm also unsure if you paid attention to plants, because cacti and succulents don't need to be watered every day, or if you also didn't pay any attention to the specific instructions she gave about which plants to water and if you had remembered, would have murdered the succulents with overwatering. To add to this, many people with a lot of plants have some that were given to them by people that they care about, like a cutting from a Hoya from your mom's plant, or the lily bulbs I have from my great-grandfather's garden. Just because they're not an expensive variety doesn't mean they're low value. Not to mention all the time and effort she's put into her garden. Dude, you had one job. One. I'm glad you weren't responsible for caring for pets or children. Sorry, honey. I forgot to feed the kids for 2 weeks, but, no biggie. We can make new ones easily, right? LOL. You broke your promise to your wife, and now you're calling her dramatic and her feelings trivial. Right about now, your wife is thinking you're cheap and easily replaceable. She can get another spouse just like you, or even better, at the gardening store. I have 2 younger siblings, Jenny, nearly adult, and Leo, 19. Jenny's pretty, talented, smart, and kind. Leo's not a bad kid either, but he's not in college and he jokes around a lot. Anyways, people, mom's friends, will often compare the two, and they keep putting Leo down. He used to brush them off and acted like the comments didn't bother him. A few weeks ago, Leo was picking Jenny up from school, and they got into an accident. It wasn't Leo's fault at all, but Jenny got hurt. She's doing better now, while Leo seems to be falling down a hole of self-hatred. The accident brought out the worst in our parents, and before we knew all the details, they were all like, "Why couldn't you be more careful?" Or, "You know how precious she is." They were also extremely worried about him, but he hasn't been the same since they said that to him. Mom and Dad feel guilty now that it isn't as tense anymore, and they keep making an effort to cheer him up, but he isn't giving anything back. I would be more sympathetic towards them, but Mom is still friends with those who were and are saying terrible things about him. I'm not going to share the worst of it, but they've implied that Jenny should be the one who came out fine. My mom tells them off, but the fact that she's willingly still inviting them around, Jenny and Leo, makes me angry. It was my birthday last week, so I was visiting. For some reason, all my mom's friends were there. Jenny was present and happy, but my brother refused to leave his room and was in bed when I checked on him around 4 p.m. After dinner, I made a plate for my brother and was going to go sit with him for a while. Right as I was leaving, Mom's friends were like, "I can't believe that kid. Jenny went through so much, yet here she is, helping out while he's getting dinner served directly to him. He's going to be a loser for the rest of his life." And they wouldn't stop talking about him like he was a waste of space or a mistake. I told them to get out. They were surprised, and my mom told me to calm down. But I didn't stop yelling at these women until they all left. Some were still eating, and I didn't let them collect their things either. My mom was extremely upset and left to go give them their things and apologize. But apparently they're not talking to her anymore. They also make mean comments about her, but I don't care. She wanted me to apologize, but I refused and I told her it wasn't my problem. I do feel bad though, because my mom's been crying. And besides, I could have gone about the whole thing in another less destructive way. So, am I the idiot? I was pretty disrespectful. Not the idiot. Wow, poor Leo. I worry this has been his whole upbringing by his parents, being demeaned and compared to his sister. That is very toxic behavior. I can't believe they're parents. You're the only one stepping up to call these people out. I'm glad he has someone like you to care about him. Ask your mother why she's fine with her friends bullying her son, and don't let her weasel her way out of the question. It may also be time to bring this up with Leo, as he shouldn't be forced to be around your parents. If anybody said this about my sibling, I would go ballistic, especially since he's already beating himself down about the whole incident. Them implying that Jenny was the one who should have come out fine shows how disgusting they are. And shame on your mother for allowing them to be there, knowing how badly they regard your brother. You're the hero your brother needs. You're the hero your parents should have been. I would ask your mom if she hates Leo, because this is what she's telling him by letting people that treat him this way into his house to continue spewing hatred towards him to his whole family and in front of her. He likely thinks she and Dad feel the same way as her friends because this is the company she chooses to keep. People who hate him and can't go 5 minutes without commenting on how inferior he is to his younger sister. Tell your mom you'll consider apologizing to them when they all make personal, sincere apologies to your brother in front of the whole family. I, female 23, work in tech. We have a large office of about 50 people. Many people here are used to working from home since the global issue, so the dress code at the office is pretty casual, jeans and jumpers mostly. I was really worried about integrating with an actual office, but it's been really chill so far. The only problem has been Beatrice, who's worked in offices a lot longer than many of us younger workers. Beatrice is in her 50s and still tries to act like the queen bee of the office. We mostly just ignore her advice and try to get our work done. She has an array of complaints about any number of things in the office, but chief among them is how cold the office is. We work in a southern part of the country, and it approaches 90 degrees most days, so everyone in the office is fine with the AC being set at 72. With the strong fans in our office, it often feels cooler. Beatrice tends to wear low-cut cardigans and pullovers, and no bra. This will be important later. She constantly complains about how cold it is in the office, even though we all tell her to put on an extra layer. One day in the lunchroom, she said I must be lucky not to feel the cold with my extra layer of blubber. I have a little extra fat, but I am working down after struggling with an ED. This really stung me, and I said maybe she should stop dressing like she works at Hooters if she wants to stay warm. She walked stiffly out of the room. My coworker told me she heard her crying in the bathroom. I feel bad for making her cry, but I also felt offended. She implied only a fat person could be comfortable in the AC. I dress reasonably. Edit. She's made multiple comments about my outfits not fitting. I am male to female transgender, and I can't wear all the outfits in my wardrobe perfectly. Not the idiot. She insults you on your weight, and you fire back with an absolute gem, and she gets upset about it. Beatrice was stirring the pot, and you just handed her the spoon and made her take a taste. She needs to learn to take it if she's gonna sling it. I am concerned that OP doesn't seem to realize that, as satisfying as her response at the moment was, it was 100% the wrong way to go in an office setting and could bite her in the butt. Both will get in trouble. HR doesn't care who started it. A harassment accusation? That's big league. They 100% would be required to investigate and take action to reduce liability. They can't risk being a company that looks the other way. A hostile work environment? That's reality. Yeah, you'd probably both be in hot water at any professional organization right now. But comparing the two statements, I'd get a slap on the wrist for mentioning if someone was fat. If I told a woman she dressed like she worked at Hooters, I'd be fired. For sure. Probably that day. So everyone's the idiot here. But OP was actually way more unprofessional. You're both professionals, and you need to act like it. If there's a problem, take it to HR.